Honestly, at this point, the doll doesn't even come close to being as scary as the idea of having to sit through another one of these movies. Oh my god. Annabelle Comes Home is written and directed by Gary Dauberman, and this film follows the daughter of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who, after a friend of her babysitter's, wanders into the Warrens' secret room, which holds various items from their investigations, including the doll Annabelle. She opens the case that holds Annabelle and subsequently releases havoc on the entire house. This is actually the 7th film in the Conjuring universe, and this movie actually serves as a sequel to Annabelle Creation, which was a prequel sequel to Annabelle, which was a prequel spin-off to The Conjuring, and this movie actually is a prequel to The Conjuring 2, and also all of these movies take place after The Nun. They made another movie about the doll. What do you want? What James Wan was able to craft with The Conjuring, I feel, was something truly special, because it took the template and the conventions of a typical haunted house film, and it did something very fun and different with it, which was also followed up by the also very good The Conjuring 2. And since then, I feel like the fine people over at Warner Brothers saw the box office returns that these movies had made, and they went full Scrooge McDuck, and now, well, we have 7 of these movies. There's really no way to sugarcoat this. I mean, Annabelle Comes Home is really bad. So did you guys see Annabelle Comes Home? What did you think? Seriously though, I found this film to be so intensely dull and just one of the most uninspired and just inexcusably generic horror films that I have seen in years. What seems to be a pretty constant positive about these films, I think the performances of this movie actually are pretty strong. McKenna Grace, who was quite excellent in The Haunting of Hill House, as well as Gifted, is by far and away the best part of this movie. She acts everybody else under the table in this film. I'd say visually, this film is pretty on par with what we've come to expect with a lot of these films. It's got a very similar color palette. It utilizes a lot of the thirds of the frame, and it's in focus. That's quite the endorsement, isn't it? I mean, they should put that on the poster. Annabelle Comes Home. It's in focus. I feel for those of you who watch a lot of my videos, especially those where I review horror films, I feel like you guys already probably are kind of familiar with what I'm going to say about this movie, because this film just gets so much wrong. This film is essentially the equivalent of those haunted houses that you walk through during Halloween time, which, don't get me wrong, I enjoy those about as much as the next person, but those attractions aren't typically known for their narrative capabilities. And like those attractions, this film seems to just usher its audience along from one set piece to the other with no real concern with tension or with escalation. In fact, I kind of struggle to tell you what exactly this movie's about, because it's essentially just kids getting scared for 106 minutes. Now, I do think that there is a fairly legitimate argument in support of this film's rather minimalistic narrative. We'll say that. That's a nice way to put it. But when you look at films like Halloween, or hell, pick any movie in the Friday the 13th franchise, and they're not really about anything per se, they're mostly just about teenagers getting killed in creative ways. But that's kind of the draw of those movies. You go to those films to see the fun and goofy and just ingenious ways that Freddy or Jason or whoever can go about killing these kids. Now, a lot of people don't really find slasher movies to be too scary, but the kills would be the equivalent of this movie's scares. So in order for this movie to be successful and to pull off its rather slim narrative, it has to deliver on the scares, which, shocker, it doesn't. All of the scares in this movie are executed in one of two ways. It's essentially just someone wandering around a hallway, they look one direction, look the other direction, when they look back, something pops out at them. It's either that or That's actually kind of about it. If you've seen the first Annabelle or The Nun, or from what I hear from The Curse of La Llorona, because I didn't even bother seeing that movie, if you've seen any of those films, you've seen essentially what this movie has to offer as far as its scares are concerned. And there was something else about this film that was just so endlessly annoying. During the first 30-ish minutes of this movie, they're showing the characters, but really the audience, all of these various items throughout the house. They can be anywhere from knickknacks to haunted items to case files. And every single item that they show is incorporated later into the movie. Now, I know that's kind of screenwriting 101, but it is just frustrating that just coincidentally, every single item that these characters pick up and they're like, oh, what's this? The ghosts are just somehow able to know to use those later. Like the demons were just sitting back with like a freaking notepad and we're like,
oh, dude, she picked up the bell. Are you gonna use the bell later? Oh my god, dude, that's gonna be so freaking scary.
Also, there's another element of this film, and it is a pretty significant portion of this movie, and it is without a doubt, hands down, far and away, no contest, the stupidest thing in this entire series. It is completely over the top, totally ridiculous, and it took every fiber of my being to not out loud start cackling at this movie. Look, if you scare easily, or you're not really looking for a film to really try that hard as far as telling a narrative or a story, and you're kind of just looking for a movie to bumble its way from one scare to the other, like the shittiest episode of Scooby-Doo, then this movie is probably gonna be right up your alley. But if you watch films for, I don't know, the story, then you're probably gonna hate this movie as much as I did. This film features bafflingly idiotic characters, a non-existent and completely dull narrative, and jump scares that I think would be hard-pressed to startle a large toddler, let alone anyone who has seen more than 2 competently made horror films. Like I said, I'm not against the idea of a horror film just being completely focused on constantly scaring the audience. That's not a terrible idea for a horror film. However, when the said horror film, every single scare in this movie is so completely predictable and at minimum mediocre, I kind of have to consider said horror movie a complete failure. So did you guys see Annabelle Comes Home? What did you think about it? Leave your thoughts and opinions down below. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching today. I hope you liked today's video. And if you did, you can click on the link down below and subscribe to my channel to see more movie reviews and movie related things. And guys, thank you so much for watching and see you next time.